Hey, friends, tonight, we're stepping into the heart of the ancient world, Rome. Not the Rome of marble statues and emperors you've seen in movies, but the real Rome, the smoky, crowded, living city where millions of people live side by side. And you are one of them. Before we sink into the story, take a moment to get comfortable. Dim the lights. Maybe let a fan hum softly in the background. If you enjoy these immersive journeys, I'd be grateful if you left a like, and maybe even subscribe if this sort of history helps you relax. And, as always, let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from, and what time it is for you right now. It's always fascinating to see who is listening, whether it's midnight in London, the middle of the afternoon in California, or dawn in Sydney. Now, close your eyes, take a slow breath, let it out. Tonight, you've just woken up in the greatest city of the ancient world. Welcome to Rome. The good news is, you're alive. The bad news is, so is everyone else. And in a city with more than 1 million people crammed together, that means noise, heat, and smells like you've never known before. You open your eyes in a tiny, windowless room. Your home is what the Romans call an insula, a tall apartment block stacked high with families like yours. The walls are cracked, the plaster flaking. The floor creaks under the weight of too many tenants. You live on one of the upper floors, not because you're wealthy, but because you're poor. The rich take the lower levels, where it's safer, cooler, and easier to leave in a hurry if fire breaks out. Up here, you're close to the roof, where leaks drip in when it rains, and the summer sun makes the walls as hot as a furnace. You lie on a straw-stuffed mattress, thin and scratchy, covered with a coarse wool blanket. It's not comfortable, but it's better than nothing. Around you, the sounds of Rome already waking. Voices echo up the stairwell, children crying, someone hammering on a door, the faint bark of a dog, and underneath it all, a constant murmur, like the breathing of the city itself. You push yourself up, blinking in the dimness. Light filters in only through cracks and a small opening near the ceiling. Your family shares this single room. You, your spouse, your children, perhaps an elderly parent. Privacy is unheard of. The air is thick, stale, tinged with smoke from last night's oil lamp. Your first thought is food. There is never enough of it. Bread, mostly, coarse, cheap loaves made of wheat or barley, sometimes stretched with ground beans or chestnuts to make it last. You have a crust from yesterday, hard as stone. You chew slowly, softening it with water from a clay jug. Wine, if you had any, would be watered down and sour, more hygienic than the world's. But today, there's none left, just the taste of stale bread on your tongue. You dress in your simple tunic, coarse wool or linen, patched and worn from years of use. Sandals on your feet, nothing fancy, nothing expensive. Just enough to pass unnoticed in the streets. The stairwell down is narrow and dark. You descend carefully, passing neighbors carrying baskets, jars, bundles. The smell grows stronger with each step. A mingling of sweat, cooking fires, unwashed bodies, and the ever-present stench of waste. Chamber pots are emptied into the street below. Sewers exist, but they're often blocked, overflowing, or too far away to matter. Rome is a city of grandeur, yes, but it is also a city of filth. At last, you step out into the street, and Rome comes alive around you. The sun is rising, casting golden light across the rooftops and temples. Narrow alleys twist between tall buildings, crowded and uneven. Stone pavements echo with footsteps, cart wheels, and the hooves of donkeys. Vendors call out their wares: olives, fish, fruit, garlands of flowers. Somewhere, the metallic clang of a blacksmith's hammer rings through the air. The smells are overwhelming. Fresh bread from a nearby bakery. Fish laid out on wooden stalls, already starting to turn in the heat. The acrid smoke of charcoal braziers. And beneath it all, the sour reek of refuse piled in corners, waiting to be carted away. A stream of people presses past you, slaves carrying loads on their shoulders, women with baskets balanced on their heads, children darting between legs, soldiers in gleaming armor, on their way to the barracks, nobles in fine robes, carried in litters by sweating attendants. Rome is a city of all classes, all statuses, all nations, and here, in the streets, they collide. You make your way toward the fountain at the corner. Water gushes from a carved spout, collected from the aqueducts that bring fresh supplies into the city. It is one of Rome's miracles, running water for the masses. You fill a clay jug, splashing cool drops on your hands, rinsing the grime from your face. Around you, others do the same. A group of children laughing, an old woman mumbling a prayer, a soldier washing the dust from his sandals. Refreshed, you stand for a moment, listening. Rome is not just a city of stone and brick. It is alive, buzzing with sound. Pigeons coo on rooftops. Street musicians pluck at lyres. Dogs bark, carts rattle. Someone shouts in Greek, another in Latin. Dozens of languages mingle in the air. For Rome is the heart of an empire, and its streets echo with voices from every corner of the known world. And yet, for all its power, life here is fragile. A single fire could sweep through the insulae, leaving hundreds homeless. A shortage of grain could spark riots, and disease spreads quickly in the crowded alleys. But for now, the city hums with energy. Life continues, as it has for centuries. You breathe in slowly, letting it all wash over you. The warmth of the morning sun on your face, the roughness of stone beneath your sandals, the rhythm of footsteps, voices, wheels. For now, you are part of Rome. You are alive, and your day has just begun. You leave the fountain behind, the clay jug tucked carefully under your arm. The streets of Rome spread out before you like a living maze. Narrow lanes twist between towering apartment blocks, then suddenly open into wide, sunlit plazas. Every corner holds something new, a shrine tucked into a wall, a vendor's stall propped against a column, a mural of faded red paint depicting gladiators or gods. The stones beneath your feet are uneven, worn by centuries of footsteps. In places, they are slick with mud, or slick with something worse. You step carefully, keeping to the raised paving stones that let pedestrians cross even when the streets are flooded with runoff, refuse, or worse. Rome, they say, is eternal, but for you, it is immediate. The scrape of your sandal, the crush of bodies, the sun rising higher in the sky. You follow the current of people moving toward the Forum, the beating heart of the city. The crowd thickens, voices rise, and soon you step into an open expanse unlike anything else in the world. The Forum Romanum stretches out before you. Temples tower overhead, their marble columns gleaming in the morning light. Statues of emperors and generals stand proudly in the squares, casting long shadows across the paving stones. Arches span the streets, carved with scenes of victories in faraway lands. And yet, for all its grandeur, the Forum is no quiet place of reverence. It is loud, crowded, alive. Vendors shout their prices, competing with one another. A butcher slaps meat onto a counter, the smell of raw flesh mingling with the tang of herbs from a nearby stall. Bakers sell steaming flatbreads fresh from clay ovens. A woman holds up lengths of dyed wool, calling out the virtues of her crimson and indigo cloth. The smells are overwhelming, and you find yourself turning your head from one direction to another. Fresh figs piled high in a basket, their sweet scent rich in the air. Jars of honey gleaming in the sunlight, wine being ladled into clay cups for thirsty customers, and everywhere, the faint undercurrent of sweat, smoke, and sewage that no amount of incense can quite hide. You move slowly through the crowd, jostled on every side. A Greek philosopher, wrapped in his cloak, debates loudly with a student, gesturing toward the sky, as though he might pluck wisdom from it. A group of young men, laughing, shove one another as they head toward the steps of a temple. An older man, his toga carefully arranged, strides past with two slaves in tow, his eyes fixed forward, his expression stern. The forum is more than a market, it is a stage. Here, everyone performs their role. The wealthy flaunt their status, the poor scrape together what they can, and the foreigners, of which there are many, had their own voices, languages, and colors to the mix. Syrians with long beards selling exotic spices, Egyptians offering amulets and charms of strange gods, Gauls with thick cloaks and rough accents, hawking animal skins. You pause near the steps of the Basilica Julia, its great hall echoing with the voices of men arguing cases before magistrates. Legal disputes are a constant here, property disagreements, debts unpaid, accusations of fraud. Some argue passionately, others listen with feigned boredom, scribbling notes onto wax tablets. You cannot hear the details from where you stand, but the energy is unmistakable. Rome is not just an empire of soldiers, it is also an empire of words, of law, of order, or at least the promise of it. Nearby, a small crowd gathers around a street performer. He juggles brightly painted balls, his hands moving quickly, his voice carrying jokes over the laughter of children. Coins clink into the bowl at his feet. Another performer, less polished, strums a lyre, his song half lost in the din. A few people pause, listening, but most move on. In Rome, entertainment is everywhere, but attention is fleeting. As the sun climbs higher, the heat begins to settle in. Rome is not kind in the summer. The tall buildings trap the warmth, the stones radiate it back, and the crowds make the air heavy. You feel sweat prickling along your neck, the fabric of your tunic clinging to your back. You think of water, of shade, of rest, and perhaps of something to eat. Your stomach reminds you that the crust of bread this morning was not enough. But food costs money, and money is scarce. You watch as a vendor roasts chickpeas over a brazier, the smoky aroma tempting. Another sells bowls of steaming porridge, thick with grain. A woman nearby offers dates, their golden skins gleaming in the sun. If fortune smiles, perhaps you have a coin or two tucked away. Perhaps not. Hunger is a familiar companion. Still, you linger near the vendors, letting the smells fill your senses, imagining the taste of each bite. A sudden commotion draws your attention. At the far end of the forum, near the steps of the Temple of Castor and Pollux, a group of men has begun shouting. Their voices rise, harsh and angry. One shoves another. People turn their heads, curious. Arguments in Rome can be dangerous. Tempers flare quickly, and fists, or knives, follow. A pair of lictors, officials with bundles of rods at their sides, hurry forward to break it up. The crowd murmurs, then shifts, returning to its business. Just another day in the forum. You continue walking, weaving between merchants and shoppers, past marble columns streaked with age, past temples whose steps are worn by centuries of worshippers. Each corner reveals something new, a group of women carrying baskets of offerings, their voices soft as they pray. A line of petitioners waiting before a magistrate, a scribe hunched over a wax tablet, scratching notes with his stylus. And always, above it all, the sound of Rome, the constant murmur of thousands of voices, the clatter of carts on stone, the cry of vendors, the laughter of children, the bark of dogs. A city alive, endless, overwhelming. For a moment, you stop in the middle of it all. You take a deep breath, the air thick with dust and smoke, heat and spice. You let it fill you, let it anchor you. This is Rome, not the Rome of statues and triumphal arches, but the Rome of daily life. The Rome that breathes, sweats, argues, hungers, prays. You are just one among many, a small figure in a vast sea of humanity. But here, in this moment, you belong. The sun is climbing, and the day stretches ahead. There is work to do, errands to run, perhaps news to hear at the steps of a temple, or a message to deliver in another part of the city. But for now, you linger in the Forum, surrounded by voices, colors, smells, and the endless, living heartbeat of Rome. You drift away from the Forum, leaving its marble grandeur and crowded stalls behind. The paved streets narrow again, sloping downward into a quarter where the sounds grow sharper, less ceremonial, more urgent. Here begins the Suburra, the district where Rome's working poor live crammed together in towering insulae, the tenement buildings that lean precariously over the alleys. The change is immediate. The air feels thicker, heavier with smoke and the sharp tang of urine that drips from chamber pots emptied into the street. The grand colonnades and temples give way to walls smeared with soot, plaster peeling in great flakes, shutters hanging unevenly from rusted hinges. The streets are narrower, so narrow in places that two carts cannot pass each other without scraping their wheels. Children run barefoot through the muck, laughing, chasing each other with sticks. A woman shouts after them, shaking a wooden spoon in the air, her voice carrying above the clatter. Laundry hangs overhead, stretched on ropes from one window to another. Bright tunics and patched cloaks swaying in the faint breeze, their drips adding to the dampness underfoot. The smells here are layered, pungent and inescapable. Smoke from cheap wood and dung fires wafts from open doorways, mixing with the acrid tang of fish brine being poured into a gutter. A butcher hacks at a goat carcass, blood slicking his hands, flies already gathering. Someone boils lentils nearby, the earthy scent briefly comforting before it is lost again in the sour mix of sweat and refuse. You step carefully, the stones slick with grease where a tavern has dumped its scraps into the street. A man sits slumped against a wall, his head tipped back, eyes half shut, a wineskin lying limp in his hand. His tunic is stained, his face hollow, passers-by barely notice him. In the Suburra, people have little energy to spare for another's ruin. Survival is enough. A shout startles you, a vendor leaning from his stall, calling out the merits of his cheap wine, his voice hoarse with smoke. He slaps a clay cup onto his counter, the liquid inside sloshing, red and sharp smelling. Next to him, another offers skewers of roasted meat, the fat spitting as it drips into the coals. Hunger twists in your belly again, stronger now. The bread and olives of earlier feel distant. Coins are the gatekeepers of survival here. Without them, the scents remain only temptations, reminders of the distance between want and satisfaction. You move on, though your eyes linger on the food. The street narrows still more, hemmed in by insulae rising 4, 5, even 6 stories high. Their walls lean toward each other, so close at the top that little sunlight reaches the ground. You can hear voices through the thin plaster walls, Arguments, laughter, a child's crying, a lullaby sung softly in Greek. Every sound echoes, magnified, so that the whole district feels like a single organism breathing, shouting, groaning. The insulae themselves seem alive too, though in a more threatening way. Their upper floors jut out precariously, wooden balconies sagging, beams warped. Fires are a constant terror here, a single spark, a knocked-over lamp, and the whole block could be swallowed in flame. Buckets of water are kept ready in doorways, though everyone knows they would do little against a true blaze. At the base of one building, a group of women squat in the shade, grinding grain into flour with heavy stones. Their hands are dusty white, their arms straining. They speak to one another in low voices, occasionally pausing to glance at passers-by. Behind them, a boy tends a small fire, boiling porridge in a blackened pot. The smell of barley drifts toward you, simple but nourishing. A narrow alley splits off from the main road. You glance down it and see little more than shadows, a doorway with a painted sign of a jar marking a cheap tavern. A figure hunched on a step, face hidden. The Subura is filled with such places, both necessary and dangerous. Taverns where a cup of wine might ease a day's toil, or where a knife might flash in the dark. You hear laughter from one such tavern as you pass, the raucous voices of men already deep into drink, though the day is young. The smell of sour wine drifts out, mingled with smoke. A woman's voice calls out, mocking. Then laughter rises again. You do not linger. Instead, you keep moving, deeper into the quarter. A cart rattles towards you, its driver shouting, urging his mule forward. The wheels splash through a puddle of filth, spattering your legs. The driver does not stop, his voice already raised again as he urges his animal around the corner. The Subura is relentless. Its streets twist, climbing and dipping, each corner revealing new noise, new smells, new lives compressed into too little space. Yet within the struggle, there is also resilience. People adapt, they endure. You pause near a small shrine tucked into the wall of a building, its niche holding a clay figure of the Lares, household gods who guard the family and home. A few offerings lie before it, a crust of bread, a coin, a sprig of herbs. Smoke from a tiny oil lamp curls upward, leaving soot on the wall above. A woman kneels there, whispering a prayer, her child clinging to her tunic. You bow your head briefly, not for belief perhaps, but for respect. In a place like this, everyone hopes for protection. As you move on, the noise of the forum feels far away, though in truth, it is not distant. Rome is a city of contrasts pressed tightly together, wealth beside poverty, marble beside mud, silence beside chaos. Ahead, a group of men huddle in the shade of a portico, speaking quickly, glancing around. Their hands move subtly, exchanging coins, passing small packets wrapped in cloth. You know better than to stare. Deals happen here in shadow as often as in sunlight. Gambling, smuggling, arrangements whispered rather than shouted. The heat thickens as midday approaches. The narrow streets trap the sun, the air grows heavy, and sweat beads on your forehead. You long for water again, for the cool relief of a fountain. But here in the Subura, fountains are fewer, their water rationed. Lines of women and children already cluster around one, waiting their turn with clay jars and buckets. The sound of trickling water is faint, teasing. You think of rest, but the alleys offer no comfort. A bench outside a shop, already claimed by a pair of old men playing dice, their voices rising as they argue over a throw. A doorway offers shade, but within it lurks only shadow and eyes watching from the dark. Rest must wait. So you walk on, each step carrying you deeper into the tangle of Rome's working life, each sound and smell pressing closer. Here is the Rome unseen by marble statues and triumphal arches. Here is the Rome that sweats, curses, prays, and persists. And still, despite the noise, despite the press of bodies and the stench of refuse, there is a pulse here that will not be silenced. The Subura breathes with its own rhythm, chaotic yet steady, a rhythm of survival. You take it in, breath by breath, step by step, until it feels as though the district itself has wrapped around you, not welcoming, not hostile, but simply there, vast and alive. Rome is marble and grandeur, but it is also this, the grit, the struggle, the endless press of life in its narrowest streets. And for now, this is where you walk. The suburban streets coil upward, slanting into steeper ground where the insulae rise higher, their brick and timber facades pressing close. From the outside, they look unstable, as though one strong wind might send the top floors tumbling into the street below. Yet inside, families live stacked one upon the other, bound by a necessity more than choice. You step beneath an arched doorway, the entrance to one of these tenements. The plastered walls are chipped, the stairway dim. A torch sputters faintly on the wall, giving just enough light to reveal the steep steps ahead. The air is close, tinged with mildew and smoke, and carries the faint but unmistakable odor of too many bodies living together. The ground floor rooms are not homes at all, but shops. A baker kneels before his clay oven, feeding it with kindling, the heat already radiating outward. The smell of rising dough clings to the air, fighting against the sourness of damp walls. Next to him, a cobbler bends over a scrap of leather, his tools spread out in neat rows, despite the dust. These are the fortunate, the ones whose businesses allow them to rent rooms where customers pass directly outside their doors. You climb higher, the stairs narrow and uneven, worn smooth by thousands of feet. Voices echo above and below, laughter, the clang of a pot, a child's wailing that rises and falls like a tide. On the second floor, a door hangs slightly ajar, revealing a room where a family of 6 shares a single chamber. A woman squats over a small brazier, stirring lentils in a cracked pot. The scent drifts into the hall, earthy and plain. A man hunches in the corner, repairing a fishing net, though he is far from the sea, perhaps dreaming of a day when he can return to the coast. The room is dark, its only light a slit of a window high on the wall. A single oil lamp smokes faintly, adding to the haze. Straw mats cover the floor, thin and worn, where the family will sleep side by side. Privacy is a luxury unknown here. You continue upward. Each level grows poorer, the walls damp, the air heavier. On the 4th floor, a door opens suddenly, and a boy darts out, laughing, clutching a crust of bread in his hand. His sister chases him, hair wild, bare feet slapping the boards. Their mother shouts after them in a mix of frustration and affection, her voice carrying into the stairwell. The children vanish upward, their giggles echoing. By the time you reach the 5th floor, the stairwell grows more precarious, the steps creaking, the railing absent altogether. Here, the poorest tenants reside. Their rooms are scarcely more than closets, rented for a few coins a month. Entire families sleep in spaces no wider than a bed, cooking over small braziers that fill the air with choking smoke. You step into one such room. The ceiling slopes low, the walls cracked, but within it is alive with motion. A grandmother hums softly as she rocks a baby swaddled in cloth, her wrinkled hands gentle. 2 boys crouch over a board, scratching lines in the dust with sticks, playing at games. Their father sits cross-legged, carving wood into the shape of a small toy, his knife moving carefully. Life continues here, pressed tight, but stubbornly present. The heat is stifling, trapped by the plaster walls and the single tiny window that lets in little more than a sliver of light. Outside, you can hear the groan of beams shifting under the weight of so many floors. Fires are feared most of all in places like this. A single overturned lamp could trap hundreds before they could reach the street. It is a thought that lingers unspoken in everyone's mind. Even so, these rooms are not without warmth of a different kind. Laughter rises despite the smoke, a joke told, a song hummed while grinding grain. Neighbors share what they can, a pinch of salt, a splash of oil, a story to lighten the darkness. The walls may be thin, but through them flows a kind of rough community, each family bound to the next by proximity and need. You step back into the stairwell, following the children upward until you reach the rooftop. Here, the air opens again, fresh after the stifling closeness below. The city spreads out in every direction, rooftops and smoke, domes and spires. Laundry lines stretch across the roof, tunics flapping in the breeze. Women kneel beside jars of water, scrubbing clothes against rough boards, their hands raw but steady. From this height, the contrast of Rome becomes even clearer. To the north, you glimpse the marble glint of temples catching the sun, their whiteness dazzling. To the south, smoke rises in columns from countless hearths and braziers, blurring the sky. The sound of the city drifts upward too, the creak of wagons, the shouts of vendors, the cries of children, all layered into a single restless hum. A boy climbs onto the edge of the roof, peering out with wide eyes. He points toward the Circus Maximus in the distance, where faint cheers drift on the wind. His mother pulls him back quickly, muttering a sharp warning, but his curiosity lingers in his gaze. For him, the city is not a cage of poverty, but a vast expanse waiting to be discovered. You linger on the rooftop, letting the breeze cool your skin, before descending again into the stairwell. The steps groan underfoot, the air grows thicker once more, yet now, as you pass each doorway, you hear the pulse of life with sharper clarity. A lullaby sung in Greek, a man laughing as he shares wine with a neighbor, the rhythmic scrape of a loom-weaving cloth. Even in poverty, there is texture, rhythm, persistence. At the base of the building, you step back into the street. The Suburra surrounds you still, its walls looming, its alleys winding. The insula behind you looms like a giant, fragile yet enduring, filled with countless lives stacked one atop the other, each clinging to its space in the vast city. Rome is not only marble arches and emperors' palaces. It is these narrow halls, these fragile rooms, these rooftops where children dream, while their mothers scrub and their fathers labor. Rome breathes here as much as in the Forum, perhaps even more. And as you return to the street, the sounds of the Suburra rise again, wrapping you once more in the rhythm of survival. The streets of the Suburra spill downward like streams, carrying their noise and movement into the greater flow of the city. Morning has thickened into late day, and the marketplace is stirring in full rhythm. You follow the current, moving past walls scarred with graffiti, names carved, insults scrawled, crude drawings of gladiators mid-swing. Even the plastered walls of Rome are alive with voices. The smell reaches you first, before the sight. A mingling of scents collides on the breeze, fresh bread still warm from ovens, pungent fish laid out on wooden slabs, heaps of herbs crushed under careless feet, and the sharp tang of olives brined in clay jars. As you step into the market, your senses are overtaken. Vendors shout in voices trained to cut through chaos. One cries out the sweetness of his figs, holding them high for display, their skin splitting with ripeness. Another waves a string of onions like a prize, their papery skins rattling as they sway. A butcher slaps his knife against the block, calling attention to cuts of meat that gleam faintly in the sun, though the smell of blood lingers heavy. You pause near a stall stacked with baskets of grain. A woman scoops barley into clay bowls with practiced speed, her hands moving without pause as customers line up. Her hair is tied back with a strip of cloth, sweat glistening on her brow, but her eyes remain sharp as she counts coins, weighing carefully to ensure no one cheats her. Behind her, a child no older than 10 pulls the grain into sacks, struggling to lift them to waiting buyers. The voices overlap, a chorus of bargaining. Coins clink, words rise and fall in sharp exchanges. Hands gesture, shoulders brush. A man presses past you, clutching a jug of wine, the smell of sour grapes trailing behind him. A pair of women haggle fiercely with a spice seller, their tones cutting like knives as they argue over the price of cumin. Everywhere, bodies move. A donkey lumbers through the narrow lane, laden with baskets of dates, its ears twitching against the constant noise. Chickens flap against their cages, feathers drifting in the air. Dogs slink between stalls, noses to the ground, snapping at scraps when they find them. The crowd shifts and sways, pressing you forward and pulling you back in waves. Food is at the heart of this market, but not the fine banquets of senators or generals. Here is the daily sustenance of Rome's ordinary people: bread, grain, oil, vegetables, salted fish, cheap wine, the staples of survival. At one stall, you pause to watch a man ladle steaming porridge into clay bowls. The smell is earthy, comforting, oats and barley boiled until soft. Customers hand over coins, then crouch on the curb to eat, blowing on the hot mash, licking their fingers clean. For a few moments, the bustle fades for them, hunger quieted. A little farther, a fishmonger stands with his wares displayed on a stone slab. The smell is sharp, salt and rot mixed, drawing flies that buzz in clouds. He flicks them away with a cloth, shouting loudly that his fish are fresh, pulled from the Tiber that very morning. His customers glance at him with narrowed eyes. The Tiber is known more for filth than fish, but hunger makes bargains. A woman buys a small carp, wrapping it quickly in cloth before hurrying away. The sound of laughter cuts through the air. Two young men lean against a wine stall, clay cups in hand, their cheeks already flushed. They shout good-natured insults at one another, spilling wine onto their tunics, the red staining like blood. Their voices are carried away by the crowd, but the rhythm of their laughter lingers. You edge closer to a baker's stall, where flat loaves of bread lie in neat rows, their crusts blackened by the oven's heat. The baker calls to passers-by, his voice rough from shouting, his arms dusted white with flour. He breaks one loaf open, steam rising in the afternoon air, and the smell is overwhelming. Warm, yeasty, filling. A woman buys two, tucking them carefully into her basket alongside olives and onions. Bread is more than food, it is Rome's lifeline. As you walk, your shoulder brushes against a man carrying an amphora of oil. He mutters under his breath, clutching the heavy jar tightly. Oil is dear, worth more than its weight to many, used for cooking, lamps, and rituals alike. His careful steps show its value. One slip, and it would mean weeks of wages lost. Children dart between legs, laughing as they weave through the chaos. One pauses at a fig seller's stall, hand creeping toward the baskets. The vendor swats him away with a sharp bark, but the boy grins, unashamed, and disappears back into the crowd. Hunger drives boldness, and the market knows it well. At the far end of the square, smoke curls from a brazier where a man roasts chickpeas, tossing them in salt. He scoops them into little clay bowls, the crackle of hot oil punctuating his shouts. A group of workers gathers around him, coins ready, the smell of roasted beans pulling them closer. They chew quickly, talking with mouths full, ready to return to their labor with a little warmth in their bellies. The sound of a flute drifts through the crowd. A musician sits cross-legged on a blanket, instrument to his lips, eyes half closed as he plays. The tune weaves through the noise, thin but persistent, a reminder of beauty amid the bustle. A few toss him coins, most pass by without pause, but his song continues, unbroken, carried into the press of voices. You step back from the thickest of the crowd, pausing near a shaded wall. From here, the market looks like a living thing, pulsing with breath and sound. It is not orderly, it is not calm, but it is essential. Here, survival is bartered and weighed, counted in coins and measured in handfuls of grain. The air is heavy now with heat and scent, the sun tilting lower in the sky. Shadows stretch long across the square, but the market shows no sign of fading. For Rome's poor, shopping is not a pastime, but a necessity, repeated daily. Grain for bread, oil for the lamp, vegetables for the pot. Each purchase measured carefully, each coin held tightly. As you turn to leave, you pass once more by the baker's stall. The last loaves are nearly gone, customers pressing close, hands reaching. By nightfall, there will be none left, and those who come too late will go without. It is a reminder whispered by the market itself. In Rome, the abundance is vast, but so too is the need. You step back into the narrow lane, the sounds of bargaining still following you, the smells of bread and fish clinging to your clothes. The city pulls you onward, deeper into its restless heart. The sound of the wind presses softly against the shutters of your home, rattling just enough to remind you that the outside world is alive, restless, and unyielding. Inside, though, you remain tucked into a rhythm that feels almost timeless. Each day, the same rituals, each task familiar, if not easy. Yet within that sameness, there is a quiet dignity, a kind of peace that modern life sometimes forgets. You rise early, as always, and already the faint glow of dawn bleeds across the horizon. Your dwelling, simple and modest, is still cool from the night air. The smell of smoke lingers faintly from yesterday's fire, trapped in the low beams overhead. Around you, your family stirs slowly, their breathing shifting in pace as one by one they join you in greeting the new day. The morning is never truly quiet, even before the sun has lifted. There are sounds that announce the beginning. A rooster calling out, insistent, the shuffle of a neighbor's footsteps across hardened earth. Somewhere, the rhythmic creak of a water bucket being lowered into a well. It is a chorus of survival, played daily without fail. You step outside, and the ground greets you cool beneath your feet. The sky above is wide, pale, and still gathering its colors. For a moment, before the work of the day begins, you allow yourself to simply look. The horizon stretches endlessly, fields just waking, dew clinging stubbornly to each blade of grass. The chill is sharp enough to raise goosebumps along your arms, but you breathe it in slowly, filling your chest, letting it settle you. Soon, however, there is work, always work. The fields call for tending, the animals for feeding, the tools for mending. Nothing in your world sustains itself without effort. The soil, though generous, demands loyalty. You walk into the field, and your hands instinctively reach for the handle of the wooden plow, your skin already knowing the roughness of its grip. The earth here is rich but stubborn, heavy with last night's moisture. You lean into the plow, feeling its weight resist before the soil begins to give way, breaking open to reveal dark furrows beneath. The rhythm takes shape: push, strain, breathe, push, strain, breathe. Behind you, the lines you leave carve the promise of food, of life. Without them, there would be hunger. The sun climbs steadily, its warmth spreading slowly over your back. Beads of sweat begin to gather, running down the sides of your face, though the air is still cool. Birds chatter from nearby trees, their small bodies darting in and out of sight, reminding you that life thrives in many forms, each one busy with its own needs. As the day deepens, you pause, wiping your forehead with the back of your hand. The silence of the field feels vast now, punctuated only by the creak of your plow and the distant barking of a dog. You look down at your hands, calloused and dirt-streaked, and you feel, strangely, a sense of grounding. This is what survival looks like. Hardship, yes, but also connection to the soil, to the rhythm of the seasons, to the cycle of growth that has sustained countless generations before you. When midday arrives, you return to your home. The warmth of the sun has gathered fully now, and the air feels heavy with it. A simple meal awaits you: bread, dense and hearty, torn into pieces. Perhaps a little cheese, sharp and earthy. You eat slowly, savoring each bite, because nothing is ever taken for granted. Every crumb is effort turned into nourishment. Your family joins you in this quiet ritual. The children laugh softly over their meal. Their voices a sweet, fleeting melody that cuts through the weight of the day. You watch them and think, as always, of what you work for, not just survival, but the hope that their lives, somehow, will be gentler than yours. After the meal, there is more work. The animals need tending. Chickens scatter in the dirt as you approach, their feathers catching the light like fragments of gold. You gather their eggs carefully, the shells still warm in your hands. Nearby, a cow shifts heavily, her steady gaze watching you as you check her trough, making sure she has water. Each creature is part of this delicate balance, and each one depends on you, just as you depend on them. As the day leans toward evening, the shadows grow longer. The field, once alive with movement, begins to still. The sound of your footsteps returning home mixes with the murmur of neighbors doing the same, each one carrying the same weary pride of work completed. Inside, the air cools again. A new fire is kindled, its glow breathing warmth into the dimness. The flames crackle, soft and rhythmic, their sound as comforting as a lullaby. The smell of wood smoke curls around you, sharp but reassuring. You sit for a moment, letting the warmth reach into your bones, easing the day's weight from your shoulders. The night falls gently, almost kindly. You hear the low hum of insects outside, their endless song wrapping around your home like a blanket. The stars above sharpen against the dark, countless and steady, as if watching silently over you. You lie down at last, the straw mattress rough beneath you, but familiar. As you close your eyes, your body aches, yes, but it also knows rest is coming. Tomorrow will be the same: work, survival, rhythm, but for now, sleep is here, carrying you softly into its arms. And in that quiet, as the fire dims and the night deepens, you drift into dreams, held safely by the same world that demands so much of you. The morning comes again, as it always does, with a slow lifting of the dark. The sky lightens at its edges, and a pale wash of color spills across the horizon softening the outlines of everything it touches. You wake not because of alarm or clock, but because your body, so used to the rhythm of the land, knows when it is time. The air is cool when you rise, carrying with it the faint smell of damp earth and distant wood smoke from your neighbor's hearth. You breathe it in deeply, filling your chest with its freshness. For a moment, still sitting upon your bedding of straw and cloth, you let yourself remain in silence. There is a heaviness in your limbs from yesterday's work, but it is the kind of heaviness that feels natural, earned. Around you, your home stirs, a faint rustling as someone shifts beneath their blanket, the soft crack of timber as the walls settle against the changing temperature. From outside, a rooster calls insistently, his voice cutting through the stillness. Soon, the world beyond your walls will be in motion again, and so must you. You push yourself to your feet, your toes meeting the cool ground. The light from the doorway paints the floor in pale streaks, and as you step toward it, you feel the contrast between the shelter inside and the openness waiting just beyond. Stepping outside, the world greets you with white air and the hush of morning. The sky is a soft grey blue, still stretching and yawning before the brightness of the day takes hold. The fields, dark with moisture, glisten faintly as dew clings to every blade of grass. Each droplet catches the dim light like tiny mirrors. A cool wind moves gently across them, bending stalks and carrying with it the earthy scent of soil preparing itself for another day of toil. You begin your morning task, gathering water from the well. The bucket creaks against the rope as you lower it, the sound echoing faintly down the stone shaft. Then comes the splash, a hollow note that tells you you've reached the source. Pulling the bucket back up takes effort, your arms straining as the weight of the water rises slowly towards you. When it reaches the top, you lift it carefully, the cool damp seeping into your hands as droplets spill across your fingers. You carry it back to your home, where it will serve for cooking, drinking, and washing. Next comes the bread. The smell of flour lingers faintly in the air as the dough, prepared the night before, waits to be shaped and placed into the fire's embers. Your hands press into it, folding and turning, until the texture softens beneath your palms. Each movement is familiar, learned from years of repetition, passed down from one generation to another. When at last it bakes, the air fills with a fragrance that is at once simple and deeply comforting, warm, nutty, alive. The meal is shared quietly, bread broken, dipped into a little broth, eaten with soft words or sometimes with none at all. The children eat quickly, their laughter bubbling softly between bites. You listen, smiling faintly, though your own pace remains steady, thoughtful. Food is never something rushed, because it is never guaranteed. Each bite carries the memory of work, of soil and seed and harvest. When the meal is done, the day's labor begins again. You move into the fields, where the earth waits. The soil, dark and cool, is ready for care. Your hands grip the handle of the hoe, your arms swing steadily, breaking the ground into finer pieces. Sweat begins to gather across your brow, even though the morning air remains cool. The rhythm settles in quickly. Strike, lift, breathe, step. Around you, others are doing the same. And though you work separately, there is comfort in knowing that the same sound of effort echoes across the village. The sun climbs, and with it the air begins to warm. The coolness of morning fades, replaced by a sharper heat pressing against your back. You pause briefly, looking up at the sky, endless, stretching, a reminder of how small you are and yet how connected to everything that unfolds beneath it. A bird passes overhead, its wings stretched wide as it glides silently before dipping out of sight. As the hours move forward, you tend to the animals. Chickens scatter around your feet, clucking as they search the dirt for food. Their feathers brush lightly against your legs as you reach into the coop to gather eggs. The shells, smooth and fragile, rest carefully in your hand, each one a small treasure. A goat bleats nearby, tugging at its tether, and you kneel to check its feed. Its eyes, wide and curious, meet yours briefly before returning to its chewing. These creatures are part of the family's survival. Their care is essential as the tending of fields. When midday comes, the sun sits high and unrelenting. You retreat for a meal, again simple, again sustaining. Bread, perhaps with a bit of cheese or dried meat, and water cool from the well. You sit in the shadow of your home, the shade offering relief as a breeze moves gently across your skin. The sound of others carries faintly, neighbors talking, children playing, animals stirring, each voice weaving into the quiet music of the village. The afternoon stretches into more work. Repairs must be made, a fence mended, tools sharpened, a patch of roof checked where the wind has tugged at the thatching. Each small act feels ordinary, but together they form the fabric of survival. Without them, the walls would weaken, the fields would falter, the family would suffer. As the sun begins its slow descent, you feel the weight of the day settling into your body. The sky shifts in color, bright blue softening into hues of amber and rose. Shadows stretch long across the ground, and the coolness begins to return, wrapping around you like a quiet promise. The evening meal gathers everyone once again. Firelight flickers across the faces around you, warm and golden, while the smell of stew fills the air. You eat slowly, the crackle of wood mingling with the sound of gentle conversation. Laughter rises here and there, and though the day has been heavy, there is lightness in these moments of sharing. Later, as the night deepens, you step outside one last time. The stars spread across the sky, countless and brilliant, their light sharp against the darkness. The air is cool, carrying with it the smell of grass and wood smoke. You stand there, breathing it in, letting the stillness fill you. Then, returning inside, you lie down, your body aching but content. Sleep finds you easily, carrying you once again into rest, readying you for another day in this endless, steady rhythm. The night passes quietly, and by the time the first pale suggestion of dawn returns, your body is already half awake. You can feel the cool dampness in the air clinging to your skin, and the faintest grey light creeps through the cracks of your home. The world outside is still hushed, as though it is not yet ready to stir. But you know from countless mornings like this that the silence will not last for long. Soon, there will be footsteps, animal calls, and the creak of wooden tools against soil. You rise slowly, stretching your arms and feeling the stiffness in your shoulders. The straw mattress rustles beneath you, releasing a dry, grassy scent as you stand. Your bare feet press against the packed earth floor, cool and solid, grounding you to the space that holds your life together. Around you, others stir as well. The soft sound of someone shifting in their sleep, a quiet yawn, the faint rustle of cloth. When you step outside, the morning greets you with its breath, crisp, moist, filled with the earthy perfume of dew on soil. The sky above is still muted, soft strokes of grey and blue blending together, with the promise of light just beginning to show along the horizon. You breathe deeply, feeling the cool air expand your chest, and for a moment, everything is still. Then, the distant call of a rooster shatters the quiet, its sharp cry echoing across the village. It is a sound both ordinary and eternal, a reminder that time moves forward whether you are ready or not. Your first task is water, always water. The bucket is rough in your hands as you grip it, the rope scratchy and slightly damp from yesterday's work. Walking toward the well, you pass other villagers, each carrying their own burdens, each moving with the same sense of quiet necessity. The ground beneath your feet is darkened with moisture, and your toes brush against blades of grass still wet with dew. At the well, you lower the bucket. The rope slides through your hands, humming against your skin until the hollow splash tells you has found its target. Drawing it back up is slow, your muscles straining with the weight, but you do not falter. The bucket emerges dripping, water spilling over the rim, glittering in the faint light of dawn. You steady it, lift it carefully, and begin the walk back. Every step is measured, for water is too precious to waste. Back at home, the fire must be coaxed to life. You kneel, blowing gently into the embers that survive the night, coaxing them into a glow. Thin curls of smoke rise, stinging your eyes with their sharpness. Then comes the crackle of new wood catching, a sound of warmth and promise. The hearth begins to breathe again, its glow spreading across the room, casting flickering shadows against the walls. Bread is prepared next. You knead the dough patiently, the sticky texture clinging to your hands as you fold and press. The rhythm is slow, deliberate, calming. When at last it meets the heat of the hearth, the scent begins to unfurl, warm, nutty, alive. That smell alone feels like sustenance, filling the room before the bread is ready to be broken. The first meal of the day is simple, bread, dipped perhaps in broth or eaten plain, washed down with water from the well. Children chatter softly, their voices bright despite the early hour, while the older ones eat in silence, conserving their energy for the day ahead. Every bite is eaten with care, every crumb valued. You chew slowly, tasting the grain, aware of the work that went into each mouthful, the ploughing, the sowing, the harvesting, the grinding. Nothing is taken for granted. When the meal is finished, the true work begins. The fields call, as they always do. The soil is dark and heavy, damp from the dew, and as you set to work, your hoe breaks into it with steady rhythm. Strike, lift, turn, breathe, strike, lift, turn, breathe. The sound becomes a kind of heartbeat, repeating over and over until it fades into the background of your awareness. Around you, others are doing the same, their movements syncing with yours, each one a part of the village's survival. As the sun climbs, the air warms, and beads of sweat begin to gather on your skin. Your back bends, your arms strain, but you press on. The soil yields reluctantly, but with persistence it softens, preparing itself to receive seed. You pause only to wipe your brow or to stretch your aching shoulders. The sky above is wide and endless, the sun a relentless companion, but you are used to its demands. When the animals need tending, you step away from the fields. The chickens scatter at your feet, pecking at the dirt with quick, jerking movements. You reach into the coop to gather their eggs, cradling the fragile shells carefully in your palm. A goat bleats from its tether, its insistent voice cutting through the air, and you go to it, checking its feed and offering a handful of fresh grass. Its eyes meet yours, wide and unblinking, before it returns to chewing. These small creatures are as vital as the soil, each one a source of nourishment that requires your care. By midday, the heat is strong, and you retreat to shade for a meal. The food is simple again: bread, perhaps cheese, maybe a bit of dried meat if luck has favored you, but it is enough. You sit on the cool earth in the shadow of your home, listening to the hum of insects in the air and the distant murmur of other voices. Children laugh faintly somewhere nearby, their energy seemingly endless even under the sun's weight. The afternoon brings more tasks. A fence has broken, and it must be repaired. The wood is rough beneath your hands as you lift and fit it back into place. The hammer strikes sharp and ringing. Tools need sharpening too, their edges worn down by constant use. You sit with a stone, drawing it slowly along the blade, the sound a steady rasp that soothes with its repetition. Each repair, each sharpening, may seem small, but together they are the difference between survival and hardship. As the sun lowers, the light shifts to gold. Shadows grow longer, stretching across the ground, softening the sharpness of the day. You feel the ache in your muscles more keenly now, the tiredness sinking deep, but there is a satisfaction in it. Work done, even when endless, gives its own quiet reward. Evening gathers the family together again. The fire crackles warmly, throwing flickers of light against faces weary but content. A pot of stew simmers, the smell rich and comforting, filling the air with its promise. Laughter bubbles here and there, soft and unguarded, a contrast to the labor-heavy silence of the day. You eat slowly, savoring each bite, grateful for its warmth and for the company that surrounds you. When the meal is over and the fire burns lower, you step outside once more. The sky above is vast and dark, the stars scattered across it in glittering constellations. The air is cool, brushing softly against your skin, carrying with it the smell of wood smoke and earth. You stand there in silence, breathing it in, letting the stillness sink into you. The village is quiet now, only the occasional murmur or distant bark breaking the hush. At last, you return inside, laying yourself down upon the straw once more. Your body aches, your hands roughened, but there is peace in the weight of exhaustion. Closing your eyes, you let the rhythm of the day fade away, surrendering to the pull of sleep, ready to begin again when dawn calls. The air is cooler now as evening folds itself over the village. You step outside, leaving behind the warm haze of the hearth, and the last light of the day lingers like a faded memory along the horizon. The sky is painted in gentle shades of violet and deepening blue. A soft watercolor wash above the rooftops and hedgerows. A faint mist curls low over the fields, blurring the edges of the world, as if everything is being tucked away under a blanket for the night. Your body is weary, but it is a gentle weariness, the kind that comes from labor finished, not avoided. The soil beneath your nails, the stiffness in your arms, the ache in your back, they are not just signs of toil, but small badges of survival, proof that another day has been endured. Around you, the village quiets. Children's laughter, once bright in the afternoon sun, has faded to hushed whispers as they're ushered inside. Dogs curl close to the thresholds, ears twitching as the evening deepens, while chickens settle on their perches, feathers ruffling in one last sleepy rustle before stillness claims them. Somewhere, a cow lows softly, answered by the clatter of a pail as someone finished the final milking of the day. The scent of wood smoke is stronger now, weaving together with the damp earth and the sweetness of hay. Above, the first stars prick through the twilight, shy at first, then bolder, filling the darkening canvas. You look upward and realize how vast the sky feels, how unbroken and eternal. The same stars that watch you now have watched your ancestors and will watch your descendants long after your name is forgotten. There's a strange comfort in that, a reminder that while your life is small, it is also part of something endless. You make your way back into your hut, stooping slightly as you cross the threshold. Inside, the room glows dimly, the fire still burning low, its light trembling against the walls. Your family has gathered on the straw mats, voices quiet now, faces softened by the flicker of flame. A loaf of bread, rough and dense, is passed between hands. Each tear is careful, measured, but shared without hesitation. A bowl of pottage sits nearby, the steam carrying the faint scent of leeks and barley. It is plain, but it warms you all, filling more than just your stomach. Conversation drifts like smoke, slow and meandering. Stories are told, not grand tales of kings or knights, but simple ones, of a neighbor's stubborn goat, of a child's clumsy tumble, of weather that promises either blessing or trouble. These stories do not make it into books, yet they hold a quiet weight, binding you to one another. In the absence of parchment and ink, memory is the archive, and tonight's laughter and sighs will linger long after the fire dies down. The night deepens, the shadows growing thicker in the corners. The embers glow like tiny suns, shrinking with every passing breath. You lay yourself down upon the straw bed, the familiar prickle beneath the rough wool blanket. It is not comfort, as you would know it centuries later, yet here, it feels sufficient, even kind. The day has been long, yet the rhythm of life moves with an ancient grace. Rise with the sun, labor with the earth, rest with the dark. Your eyelids grow heavy. The world narrows to the warmth of your body. The distant murmur of the fire, the soft breathing of your kin close beside you. Outside, the night takes full hold, carrying with it the promise of another dawn, another day of survival, another chance to walk the delicate line between hardship and hope. And so you drift, slowly, gently, into sleep. The morning greets you with a brittle chill. The air inside your hut feels sharper, thinner, as though the frost outside has crept in through the gaps between timber and thatch. Your breath hangs in the dimness like pale smoke, drifting upward before vanishing into the rafters. Even the embers in the hearth seem reluctant, their faint glow no match for the cold that has settled overnight. You rise slowly, pulling the woolen blanket close around your shoulders. The straw beneath you crunches faintly, stiff with frost at the edges where the draft seeped in. Across the room, others stir of faces pale in the half-light, voices hushed, conserving energy without realizing it. Hunger sharpens the quiet, supplies are thinner now, portions smaller. Each morning begins not with indulgence, but with a calculation. What can be spared today? And will it be enough to stretch into tomorrow? The bread is harder than before, its crust tough and its centre dense. A bowl of pottage is ladled carefully, the broth thinner than in warmer days, flavoured faintly with cabbage and onion, perhaps a strip of salted pork, if fortune was kind. The warmth it provides is fleeting, but you hold on to it, savouring each sip as though it carries more than just nourishment. Stepping outside, the world greets you with a stillness, so deep it feels almost sacred. The fields lie bare under a skin of frost, their once busy rows now silent and waiting. The earth, so generous in summer and stubborn in autumn, is now withdrawn, closed off beneath its icy armour. Your hands itch with the need to work, but there is little to be done. Survival now is not a matter of planting or harvesting, but of patience, of careful rationing, of finding enough warmth and enough will to wait until the world softens again. Wood is gathered in bundles, the supply stacked against the wall shrinking too quickly for comfort. Each log is considered carefully before it touches flame. Fire is not only warmth, it is life itself, and wasting it would be unthinkable. Children carry armfuls of kindling, their fingers red and stiff, their laughter quieter now, dulled by the season. The sound of chopping carries through the village, steady and rhythmic, blending with the occasional lowing of cattle and the far-off call of crows that circle hungrily overhead. Inside, chores shift to what the cold permits. Wool is spun near the hearth, the fibres stretched and twisted with steady hands. Repairs are made to tools, to clothing, to whatever might fray under the strain of daily use. Even in stillness, the rhythm of labour continues, because idleness is dangerous. To fall behind, even a little, is to risk more than discomfort. It is to risk survival itself. As the sun creeps low across the pale sky, shadows stretch long and heavy. The day is shorter now, leaving less time for what little work there is to be done. The cold grows sharper, biting at your skin, and the hunger gnaws more insistently. Yet, even in this hardship, there is resilience. Neighbours share what they can, a handful of beans, a loaf divided, a borrowed tool. The bond between households, though sometimes strained, tightens under winter's pressure. Alone, survival is near impossible. Together, it is hard, but possible. When darkness falls again, the hearth becomes the heart of your world. Its glow is faint, but steady, casting long shadows that waver and dance against the walls. The wind outside rattles the thatch, a constant reminder of how fragile the line is between shelter and exposure. Still, within these walls, with bodies pressed close beneath blankets, there is a fragile comfort. Stories are told, not to pass the time, but to push back against the silence of the cold. And in the quiet moments before sleep, as you stare into the glowing embers, you remind yourself that winter, no matter how long, always yields. That beyond the frost and the hunger, there waits another spring. The days blur together, one folding into the next, with little to mark their passage. The light is faint, the night's long, and the air inside the hut remains heavy with the scent of smoke, damp wool, and the faint sourness of bodies that have not bathed in months. This is the heart of winter, and the struggle to endure it is written into every detail of your waking and sleeping hours. Food grows scarcer still. The stores, once carefully arranged and sealed in autumn, are shrinking with alarming speed. The salted meat is nearly gone, the beans and peas dwindling, the flour barrel hollowing out at its base. Each meal becomes more a ritual of hope than satisfaction. The bread is thinner, stretched with whatever fillers can be found, bran, ground up acorns, or even bark shaved fine and mixed into the dough. The pottage bubbles weakly in the pot, a thin broth flavoured faintly with root vegetables that have grown soft and tired in storage. It fills your stomach, but only barely. Hunger sharpens your senses. You notice every crumb, every scrap. You hear the rattle of a pot lid and feel a pang before the scent even reaches you. Children beg for more, their cheeks hollowing, their voices smaller. The old give up their portions quietly, insisting they are not hungry, their eyes knowing and weary. Such sacrifices are unspoken, but understood, one generation trying to stretch life into the next, and alongside hunger comes sickness. The air is close and stale, and coughs begin to echo in the dim light. Fevers flare in the night, burning hot against the cold. Without medicine, without the luxury of physicians, remedies are simple, herbs if they remain, warm cloths, whispered prayers. Some recover, their strength returning slowly. Others fade, leaving only silence where once there was breath. In these moments, the reality of winter feels heavier than the cold itself. The village holds together, even as it weakens. Neighbors trade what little remains, a handful of onions for a pinch of salt, a loaf of bread for firewood. It is not generosity so much as necessity, for if one household falls, the others feel the loss. The rhythm of survival is communal, woven from thin threads of shared burden. Still, there are whispers of desperation, rumors of theft from storehouses, of hunters venturing too far into the frozen woods and not returning. Hunger gnaws at not only the body, but the mind, making even the most steadfast waver. And yet, in the bleakest moments, humanity flickers. On nights when the wind howls against the walls, families gather by the fire, sharing stories of summers past, of harvests so plentiful the barns could not hold it all. The children listen, eyes wide, as though those memories could warm their bellies. Songs are sung in low voices, their melodies winding through the rafters, quiet but stubborn. They do not erase the hunger or the fear, but they soften them, if only for a while. You lie awake, curled beneath rough wool, listening to the crackle of the fire and the wheeze of someone's cough. Your body aches from cold and emptiness, but your mind drifts to thoughts of spring. You imagine the first shoots of green breaking through the frost, the lambs stumbling on unsteady legs, the smell of earth turning rich beneath the plough. It feels impossibly far away, a dream more than a certainty. Yet it is that dream that carries you outside. The stars burn with icy clarity. The moonlight spreads across the frozen fields, pale and silent. The world is still, locked in winter's grip. But beyond it, beyond the months of hardship, life waits. For now, you endure, breath by breath, bite by bite, holding on until the thaw comes. The days no longer feel like days. Light comes late, weak and grey, and fades again far too soon. Time blurs when every morning begins with hunger and every night ends with cold. Your stomach no longer growls in protest the way it once did. Instead, it lies heavy and hollow, an ache that has settled deep, almost numb. Food is scarce now, more scarce than at any point before. The last sacks of grain have been stretched until there is almost nothing left to stretch. Bread, once a daily staple, is now a rare memory, and what passes for pottage, little more than water tinged with the flavour of old roots. Some turn to desperate measures, boiling bark shaved from trees, chewing bitter weeds pulled from beneath the snow. Anything to keep the body moving a little longer. Hunger drives people to silence. Conversations are shorter, voices thinner, as though words themselves take too much strength. The children feel it most. Their cheeks, once round and rosy, have grown pale, hollowed. Their play is quieter now, replaced by long naps by the fire, too weary to chase one another in the snow as they had at the start of winter. Mothers wrap them in every scrap of cloth, rocking them slowly, humming lullabies not to entertain, but to soothe, to remind them that warmth and care still exist, even if the food does not. Illness lingers like a shadow across the village. Coughs echo through the thin walls, rattling in chests, already weakened by hunger. The healer does what she can, but her baskets of herbs are nearly bare. The smell of boiled garlic and yarrow fills the air less often now, not for lack of sickness, but for lack of supplies. Still, she visits, checking on neighbours, offering a hand on the shoulder, a whispered prayer, even when her remedies are gone. Work has not stopped, though it is slower. The animals must still be kept alive, though their bones press through their hides. Water must still be carried, though the river is locked in thicker ice than ever before. Every step to the riverbank feels heavier, each swing of the axe through frozen water a trial. The tasks that once sustained a household now feel endless, burdens carried on dwindling strength. Some nights, the desperation breaks through the silence. A knock at the door after dark, a neighbour asking, voice trembling, if you have even a crust to share. And though you are starving yourself, you find something, half a crust, a spoonful of broth, because you know they would do the same for you. Survival is not possible alone. It has never been possible alone. Faith has become both a refuge and a necessity. The church bell still rings in the distance, its sound hollow in the frozen air. Services are thinner now, the benches filled with gaunt faces, but people still come. They kneel together, praying for mercy, for an early thaw, for the strength to endure. The priest speaks of trials, of suffering as a path to grace, of heaven's reward for earthly struggle. The words are heavy, but in their heaviness there is comfort. At night, when the fire burns low and the walls groan against the wind, you lie awake, wondering how much longer winter can last. The blanket on your body is stiff with age, the straw beneath you sharp and uneven. You turn, listening to the shallow breaths of those beside you, counting each one as a blessing. Sleep comes slowly, often interrupted by the cold, but when it does, it is deep and heavy, as though the body is too tired to dream. And yet, even here, in the heart of deprivation, there are small sparks. A neighbor carving a simple toy for a child, to bring even a moment of joy. A group gathering to sing softly by the fire, voices thin but still harmonizing, still carrying warmth. A loaf baked from the very last of the flour, divided evenly among many hands, each bite too small to fill, yet large enough to remind everyone they are still alive. Winter has taken much. It tests not only the body, but the spirit. But you see, in these quiet acts of care, that winter has not taken everything. There is still endurance. There is still hope. There is still the stubborn, fragile will to see another dawn. The air has shifted, though only slightly. It is still bitter, still sharp enough to sting your lungs when you breathe it in, but there are moments when the wind carries something else, something almost softer, a smell you can't quite place, the faintest whisper of thaw, of earth waiting beneath the snow. It is not spring yet, not truly, but it feels as though the earth is holding its breath. For now, survival remains the same. You wake to the creak of frozen beams above your head, to the muffled sounds of coughing and stirring within the hut. The first task is always the fire, coaxing sparks into flame with whatever fuel remains. Most of the good wood has long since been burned, leaving you with twisted bundles of sticks, dried dung, even bits of old furniture sacrificed to the flames. The fire burns less brightly now, but even a weak glow is enough to keep the cold at bay for another morning. The children stir slowly, their eyes sticky with sleep, their limbs heavy. Their bones feel more fragile in your hands as you help them dress, layers upon layers of wool and linen pulled close to their bodies. They eat in silence, a thin broth of boiled roots ladled into wooden bowls. The taste is nothing, yet they drink eagerly, as if it were a feast. You watch them carefully, counting each swallow, willing their bodies to keep fighting. Work continues outside, though the snow remains deep. The animals are gaunt, ribs showing, but still they must be fed. Hay is scarce now, so each bundle is divided carefully, no strand wasted. The cows chew slowly, their eyes dull, but when they raise their heads to nuzzle against your sleeve, it feels like a gift, proof they are still alive. Chickens peck weakly at the scraps thrown to them, their feathers puffed out against the cold. It is a fragile balance, this fight to keep them alive just long enough to see grass again. The river is still locked in ice, but the cracks are different now, spreading like veins across its frozen surface. You kneel at the bank, breaking through with the axe, listening to the echo of water rushing beneath. It is the same sound as before, yet somehow it feels different, more insistent, more alive. You fill your buckets, feeling the cold bite into your hands, but for the first time in weeks, you allow yourself to think, spring will come. The village is quieter now. Some houses stand empty, their hearths cold, their doors closed with snow piled against them. Those who remain move more slowly, but they still move. A man drags a sled of firewood across the square, his body bent with effort, but his eyes lift to yours, and you exchange a nod. No words are needed. The nod is enough, a recognition of struggle and of the fact that both of you are still here. In the evenings, when work is done, people gather again. Though the gatherings are smaller, they sit close around the fire, sharing news, trading whatever scraps they have left. Stories are told more often now, not just of saints and sermons, but of warmer days. Tales of summers past, of harvest festivals, of laughter in fields golden with wheat. The children listen wide-eyed, imagining warmth they cannot remember. For them, these stories are lifelines, proof that the world is not always snow and hunger. You notice, too, that the sky has changed. The days, though still short, stretch a little longer. The sun lingers just a fraction higher above the horizon before dipping away. Shadows are still long, but they fall later, and in that delay there is promise. The old ones speak of it, pointing to the sky, reminding everyone that winter cannot last forever. And in the quiet of the night, as you lie beneath your heavy blankets, you hear something else. Not just the wind groaning through the cracks, not just the restless stirrings of your family beside you, but the faint dripping of water somewhere outside. The snow is melting, drop by drop. It will take time, weeks, maybe longer, but it has begun. Hope is dangerous, you remind yourself. It makes hunger sharper, makes every day of waiting feel endless, but hope is also necessary. It is what keeps your hands steady on the axe, what keeps you walking to the river, what keeps you telling stories by the fire. Without it, winter wins. With it, you endure. The weeks stretch on, and though the air feels different, the cold does not surrender easily. Winter still has its claws sunk deep into the earth, and every day it seems to remind you that survival is not yet certain. You rise before dawn, the hut dark except for the faint glow of coals buried in ash. The fire must be fed, even if all you have left to feed it is the splintered remains of some tool handle or a bundle of reeds gathered months ago. The cold creeps in around the edges of your blanket, making your skin ache as you dress. Layers upon layers, stiff linen, scratchy wool. Yet even with it all, the chill still seeps through. Your breath plumes before you in the dimness, and the sound of coughing echoes from the shadows where others still sleep. Hunger and sickness have made everyone weaker. You see it in the children's hollow cheeks, in the elders' sunken eyes, in the way your neighbors moved if their bones are made of stone. The food stores, meager to begin with, are almost gone. You portion out the last pieces with hands that tremble, not from fear, but from exhaustion. A crust of bread, hard as rock, softened in warm water, a handful of peas boiled into a thin soup. The pot is nearly empty now, and when you scrape the bottom, the sound is hollow. Still, you eat, slowly, carefully, every bite chewed as if to draw out its strength. Hunger sharpens the senses in strange ways. Bread, once ordinary, now tastes almost sweet, and a spoonful of broth feels like a feast. You think of feasts you once knew, roasted meats, steaming stews, fresh butter melting on soft bread, and the memory feels like a dream from another life. Outside, the snow still covers everything. The fields, once green and full, are buried beneath a sheet of white. The paths are narrow trenches carved by weary feet. The fences have lost beneath drifts. The trees stand like sentinels, bare and brittle, their branches rattling like bones in the wind. You go about your work anyway, because there is no choice. The animals wait, their bodies thin, their breath steaming in the frigid air. You carry what little fodder you have left, spreading it carefully, watching as they chew slowly, eyes half closed. Each day you wonder if this will be the last day you feed them, if tomorrow you will wait to find one lying still, but for now, they endure. The well and river still give water, though each trip to fetch it feels longer, heavier. The bucket's cut into your hands, and the ice threatens to close over again as soon as you break it. Still, the sound of running water below the frozen surface is enough to keep you moving. That sound means life, hidden but waiting. Some days, the village feels unbearably silent. Entire houses remain closed, smoke no longer curling from their chimneys. Death has visited some families quietly, leaving their doors shut, their hearts dark. Others struggle on, and when you pass, you see them too, pale faces peering out from doorways, eyes heavy with weariness, but still watching, still holding on. In the evenings, when darkness falls once more, people gather as best they can. The fire becomes the center of everything, warmth, light, and hope bound into a fragile flame. Voices tell stories, but they sound quieter now, as if even the tales themselves are tired. Sometimes it is simply silence, broken only by the crackle of wood and the sigh of wind through the cracks. And yet, there are changes, small ones, so slight that you almost convince yourself you've imagined them. A drop of water falling from a roof's edge at midday. A patch of snow that seems softer, less brittle, as though it has loosened its grip on the earth. The sun lingers just a little longer before sinking away, leaving behind streaks of gold and rose along the horizon. You watch it with tired eyes, knowing these are signs, even if faint. The old ones whisper that this is how winter ends, not with sudden warmth, but with small surrenders, one by one. A drip of water, a bird's faint call, a longer day. You cling to these signs because they mean the struggle has not been in vain. At night, when you lie down again on the straw mattress, the weight of the blanket pressing heavy on your chest, you listen. Beyond the wind and the shifting timbers, you hear it again, the steady drip, drip, drip of melting snow. It is faint, almost drowned out by the sounds of sleep and the soft cough of someone in the dark. But it is there, a rhythm, patient and unstoppable, carving its way into the silence. Hope is dangerous, yes, but hope is also necessary. Without it, you would give in to the hunger, the cold, the exhaustion. With it, you can believe that the sun will rise higher, that the earth will soften, that the fields will one day be green again. And so, you keep going. Each step, each chore, each shared glance with a neighbor or family member, they are all acts of defiance against winter's hold. You endure because that is what survival demands. You endure because somewhere beneath the snow, life is waiting to return. The day begins as so many before it, with cold air seeping through the cracks of your hut and the dim glow of coals buried in ash. Yet as you stir, you notice something different. The stillness outside is not so complete. There is a sound, faint but steady, like a trickle of water running, where there has been only silence for months. You rise, shivering as you pull your cloak around you, and step into the pale light. The snow still blankets the ground, but it is no longer the unyielding crust it once was. Here and there, dark patches of earth peek through, glistening with moisture. From the roof's edge, droplets fall, catching the sun like tiny sparks before splashing into the mud below. The air feels softer, less biting, carrying with it a dampness that clings to your skin. When you breathe, it is not just frost you taste, but something faint and earthy, like soil waking from its long sleep. The change is small, yet undeniable. Winter's grip is loosening. Your neighbors notice it too. Doors that have remained closed for weeks now creak open, and figures emerge, squinting at the pale sunlight. Their movements are slow, stiff from months of confinement and hunger, but there is something new in the way they step, a cautious lightness, as though they can sense the shift as clearly as you do. The children are the first to embrace it fully. They dart into the half-melted snow, their laughter carrying through the village like a forgotten melody. Their boots sink deep into slush, splashing water onto their tunics, but they do not care. Their joy is loud, unrestrained, and though the elders scold them for soaking their clothes, even the scolding is softened by the smiles that creep across tired faces. The animals, too, sense the change. The sheep bleat more eagerly, their noses pressed to the patches of exposed ground, searching for the faintest shoots of grass. The cows shuffle restlessly, their eyes bright with the promise of fresh pasture. Even the chickens, thin and ragged from winter, scratch at the softened earth with renewed vigor. Work begins anew, though it is cautious and halting at first. The snow is still heavy in places, and the mud deep where it has melted, but the men take their spades and begin to clear pathways, heaving aside what they can to reveal the ground beneath. Women carry baskets to the river, where the ice has broken into drifting slabs, the water rushing beneath with a song that has been absent for so long. They wash clothes, scrub pots, and return with cheeks flushed from the cold spray, yet their smiles reveal a relief to deep forewords. Food remains scarce, and hunger still gnaws at your belly, but there is a difference now. Where before each meal was a dwindling reminder of how close the end might be, now each crust of bread and handful of peas is endured with the knowledge that more will come. Soon the earth will soften enough to be ploughed, the seeds saved from last year pressed into furrows, the promise of a new harvest lying in each careful motion. At night, the gatherings by the hearth take on a different tone. The fire still burns, though not as desperately, and the voices around it are stronger, livelier. Stories shift from survival to what comes next. Which fields will be sown first? What repairs must be made to tools? Who will help mend the fences broken beneath the snow? There is laughter, hesitant at first, then freer, as if it had been waiting in the silence, ready to burst forth. The old ones smile knowingly. They have seen many winters, and they remind the younger folk not to trust too quickly. Winter can return in sudden storms, they warn, even as late as the planting season. The lesson is not lost on anyone. Yet even in their caution, their eyes gleam with something bright, something stubborn, the recognition that another trial has been endured. The sky itself seems transformed. The grey heaviness that pressed down for so many months now breaks apart, revealing glimpses of blue so vivid it almost hurts to look at. The sun lingers longer, its warmth faint but real, sinking into the skin like a promise. Birds return, their songs tentative at first, then louder, filling the dawn with music. The sound makes you pause in your work, head tilted, a smile spreading unbidden across your face. It is a reminder that life, even when hidden, never truly disappears, and yet, the scars of winter remain. The faces around you are thinner, the movement slower, the memories of hunger still etched deeply into every heart. Families speak in hushed tones of those who did not see the thaw, names remembered, candles lit, prayers whispered. The empty places at the hearth are reminders that survival came at a cost, but the village endures, you endure. The thaw reveals not just the earth beneath, but the resilience of those who call it home. You have faced the cold, the hunger, the endless nights, and still you stand, ready to turn the page into another season. As the stars appear in the clearing sky, you step outside once more. The air is cool, but it carries with it the scent of damp earth and growing things. The moon reflects on the melting snow, casting silver pools of light across the fields. You close your eyes, breathing deeply, feeling the weight of winter lift little by little from your shoulders. Tomorrow, the work will begin again in earnest. The ploughing, the planting, the endless cycle of labor that defines your life. But tonight, you allow yourself to rest. Tonight, you stand in the quiet, listening to the drip of water, the call of returning birds, the faint laughter drifting from neighboring homes. Tonight, you know that spring has come, fragile but real, and that you have lived to see it. The thaw has deepened. What was once tentative, marked only by trickles of water and fragile shoots, is now undeniable. The snow shrinks back with each passing day, retreating to the shadows of hedgerows and the cool corners of the forest. The fields, once locked in ice, are muddy expanses waiting for the press of the plough. The air, though still carrying the chill of early spring, is thick with the scents of damp soil, wood smoke, and the faint sweetness of buds beginning to swell on branches. Life stirs everywhere you look. Birds build nests in the eaves of houses, weaving twigs with care, their calls bright and insistent in the morning air. Frogs return to the ponds, croaking loudly as if to declare that the long silence has ended. Even the river, once buried beneath a crushing lid of ice, now rushes freely, its song filling the village with a sense of urgency, a reminder that the seasons never wait. The people move with renewed energy, though their bodies are still worn from months of scarcity. The men take up ploughs, guiding oxen through the fields as dark furrows are carved into the softened earth. Each line of soil is a promise, every seed planted a quiet defiance against the memory of hunger. The women scatter peas, barley, and oats with careful hands, their eyes fixed not just on the ground, but on the future that lies within it. Children, too, are pressed into labor, though they do not see it as such. They chase birds from the newly sown fields, carry water to their mothers, and gather twigs from the thawing forest. Their laughter rings out even as they work, a sound that mingles with the creak of leather harnesses and the low grunts of oxen pulling against the mud. To them, the world feels new, and their joy reminds everyone that survival is not only about enduring, but about beginning again. At night, the hearths burn brighter, not because of fear, but because there is fuel enough to spare. Meals, while still simple, grow richer with the addition of fresh herbs and early greens gathered from the edges of fields. The taste of something fresh after months of salted meat and dry peas feels almost like a luxury, and each bite is savored with quiet gratitude. The old ones sit near the fire, watching the bustle of the younger folk, their eyes reflecting both pride and caution. They know the dangers that still lie ahead. A sudden frost could kill the seedlings. Heavy rains could wash away the soil. Sickness, born from dampness and exhaustion, could spread swiftly. Yet their words are not heavy with warning. Instead, they carry a steady wisdom, a reminder that survival is not about the absence of hardship, but the strength to meet it, season after season. And so the rhythm of life resumes, faster now, pulling everyone into its flow. Tools must be repaired, fences mended, animals tended, and land sown. There is little time to dwell on the winter past, though its shadow lingers in memories and in the empty seats at some hearts. The grief is real, but it exists alongside a deeper truth, that the village remains, the cycle continues, and each person who endured now carries within them the quiet triumph of survival. You, too, feel it as you work, the ache in your muscles, the dirt beneath your nails, the calluses forming on your hands. All of it speaks of life continuing. When you pause, leaning on your spade, and gaze across the fields, you see not just mud and labor, but hope. You see green shoots rising, birds circling overhead, neighbors working shoulder to shoulder. You see tomorrow. As night falls once more, you step outside, the cool breeze brushing against your face. The sky is vast and clear, the stars glittering with sharp brightness. The moon reflects on the river's surface, now free of ice, casting silver light across the fields. You close your eyes, inhaling deeply, the dampness of earth, the faint sweetness of new growth, the smoke from distant fires. It all fills your lungs, grounding you in this moment. And in that stillness, you realize this is the rhythm of life. Hunger, cold, labor, and grief, followed by warmth, growth, laughter, and renewal. Each season demands something. Each season gives something in return. To live through it is to accept both, to endure and to hope, to grieve and to rejoice. The peasants of the medieval world, though their lives were hard and uncertain, carried within them a resilience that allowed them to face each new day. They did not ask for ease, only for the chance to keep going, and they found beauty where they could, in a bird's song, in the laughter of children, in the warmth of a fire on a cold night. As you prepare to rest, imagine yourself by that fire, wrapped in wool, listening to the quiet hum of voices around you. The day's labor is done, the field sown, the hearth bright. Outside, the earth softens, ready to bring forth life once more. Inside, you feel safe, held by the rhythm of community, by the steady march of the seasons. Let that image settle within you, easing the weight of your own day. Let it remind you that even the harshest winters pass, and that renewal always follows. Sleep now, gently, carried by the knowledge that survival is not just about endurance, but about the quiet strength to begin again. And before you drift away, I do love to ask you, take a moment when you wake tomorrow to leave a comment below, sharing where you're from and what time it was when you listened tonight. Leave a like if this journey brought you comfort, and subscribe if you'd like to continue exploring more of history's quiet, human stories together. For now, close your eyes. Let your breathing slow, your body rest, and your mind drift, as though you were sitting by that medieval hearth, the fire warm, the world outside quiet, the promise of spring all around you. Sleep well, and good night.